Hi there, everybody. Welcome to an introduction to G Adventures in less than 15 minutes with me, your host, Gary Armstrong, the G Adventures GPS for Alberta. So this is the second introduction style video that I put together for you guys. So in this video, what I'm going to do is go through kind of the G Adventures origin story, how we operate as a social enterprise, why we do what we do, and how we do what we do. So rather than me kind of give you an introduction to an introduction, I thought I'd let our production department play a quick video for you so you can have a quick introduction to G Adventures.
When G Adventures was established, we were a small independent company trying to change the way people travel. And for 25 years, we've followed that passion. To get away from big cruise ships and all-inclusive resorts, we introduced small groups to the greatest places on Earth.
Meeting new people and the bonds that you form traveling with those people, it's pretty priceless.
Today, we're the largest independent small group travel company. Our purpose is to help make the world a little more perfect.
What would it take for tourism to be the greatest form of wealth distribution that the world has ever seen?
That's our responsibility. Together, we can strengthen local economies, empower communities, and promote understanding. By keeping things local on all our tours, we make every trip count.
The money that you're spending here is really going back into the local economy.
You pay local money, again, for local food, keep the money in the communities.
To be able to do something like that stuff gives you goosebumps.
It's pretty easy to make the world a better place. All you have to do is have the time of your life.
Okay, so I absolutely love our production department. Those guys do some really great work. All of our videos, all the videos I'll be playing in these little webinars are all on our Vimeo channel. Just type in G Adventures into Vimeo and you'll have lots and lots of different videos that you can watch. Some like that, and also just short clips of the various countries that we operate in around the world as well. So, there's a few different themes that you heard in that video that I kind of want to expand on a little bit in this introduction to G. The first one being the idea of making the world a little bit better simply by having the time of your life. The idea of keeping money in the local economy and strengthening local economies. And then that idea that Bruce mentioned there that he quickly alluded to, that big what if. What if travel and tourism could be the greatest form of wealth distribution that the world has ever seen? So, I've been in this role for a little while, but people still ask me, hey, Gary, what do you do for a living? Who's G Adventures? Who do you work for? And so I tell people, right, G Adventures is a travel company. You can book flights, you can book hotels, you can book accommodation and transportation with G Adventures. But that's kind of where the similarities between G and other travel providers start to end, really. Our tour leaders aren't called tour leaders, they're called CEOs, or Chief Experience Officers. We have a happiness business model. I don't know a lot of companies that do have happiness business models, but at G Adventures here, we have a happiness business model. And we have core values like do the right thing and embrace the bizarre. Core values that I often wear on t-shirts that we print, and I'm sure that you've all seen before. And the reason for these differences is because G Adventures is not only a travel company, but what we really are is a social enterprise. So, what is a social enterprise? I hear you cry from the other sides of your various computers or listening devices. Well, a social enterprise is an organization that applies commercial strategies to maximize improvements in human and environmental well-being rather than maximizing profits for external shareholders. So that's what we do here at G Adventures. We're all about maximizing the human and environmental well-being of the people that we meet in the countries that we visit, as well as our travelers. So, rather than just maximizing profits for external shareholders. How did this come about? Why are we a social enterprise? And the easiest way is to go right back to the beginning. So back in the early or the late 1980s, Bruce Poon-Tip, our founder and still current owner of the company, was working in the travel industry, and he was looking around, and he had a bit of an idea, and he wanted to start a new travel company. So he went around to all the banks and asked them for funding, and they said no. So no funding for Bruce. But what he did do is he rubbed 2 of his personal credit cards together, and from maxing out those personal credit cards, he was able to found the company that would become G Adventures. And the reason Bruce did this was because he had a really good idea. So in looking around at the industry, he realized that travelers had 2 options. The first option, compound resorts, cruise ships, and coach tours. And the only real alternative, to having all the luxuries of the West in the various countries that you were visiting was to go backpacking. So grab that Lonely Planet guide, go out of the door, and see as much of the world as you could in as much time as you had, with as much money as you had, and hope for the best. And so Bruce saw this, and he realized there's got to be something in between these two. What he wanted to do was take the exploration and adventure of backpacking and kind of build in some of the security and logistical support that you see when you're traveling in a group, and build back some of those amenities that you see in compound resorts and cruise ships. So that was Bruce's good idea. He also had a little bit of a crazy idea, and that crazy idea was the what if, right? What if that travel and tourism could be the greatest form of wealth distribution that the world has ever seen? And so he realized that, or he thought that one day travel and travelers would save the world. And so, when you have a bit of a really good idea and you have a little bit of a crazy idea, what you end up with is a crazy good idea. And Bruce's crazy good idea was creating a tourism-based social enterprise, targeting a niche in the market, which would provide sustainable travel solutions for our travelers and for the people that they were visiting and the countries that they were visiting when they go traveling around the world. And this crazy good idea is as important today, if not more so, as it was back in the 1990s and noughties. And so I have some numbers for you as well, because what's a great slideshow without some numbers? So these are from the UN Environmental Programme, and it's a bit of a shocking statistic. And that statistic is that for every $100 a traveler spends traveling to a developing nation, only about $5 of those dollars actually stays in the local economy of the country that they are visiting. So, this is not sustainable. People are traveling to some of the poorest countries in the world, but the local people aren't benefiting from having those travelers visiting those places. So, at G Adventures, how do we work to make travel and tourism more sustainable? How can we ensure that the money spent while travelers are on holiday stays in the local economy? And how can we achieve that big what if, that what if tourism could be the greatest form of wealth distribution the world's ever seen? And the answers to these questions are, well, it's pretty simple. What we do is we keep it local. Working wherever possible with local suppliers of accommodation, transportation, and meals to ensure that more of the money that travelers are spending stays in local economies, versus, other ways or using other suppliers. So there's a few different methods we can do this. Diverse transportation is one. It's a great way to build some unique experiences into a tour as well. So when you hire that camel ride and you go from A to B, you know that the money is going to the person who owns those camels. It's not going to the corporation or the conglomerate that owns the company that that purchased those camels. So here's to a tuk-tuk ride, and developing and having unique experiences for our travelers while they are traveling, while also having the added benefit of ensuring that the money is staying in the local economy. Another way that we make sure that occurs is by making sure that we are using local accommodation. Again, wherever possible, accommodation that reflects the culture of the place that you are visiting as well. So, it could be hand-picked hotels, it could be unique homestays, or camping under the stars, or even being in a converted monastery like on our Amalfi, our local living on the Amalfi coast. So just another way where we're ensuring that the money that travelers are spending is staying with local operators. Another way is to ensure that, that there's really no better way to experience a unique culture than through its food. And so typically a lot of meals or a number of meals are included in our trips. It's not something that we overprescribe purely because, it's up to individuals to kind of build their own experiences while they're on our G Adventures tours as well. But wherever possible, we include breakfast because, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, especially when you're out adventuring. But when those meals are included, we try and ensure that they, give our travelers a taste of the local cuisine and the local culture. And that, again, we're using local providers who are sourcing their food locally. Again, going to local markets, purchasing, food off of local vendors and cooking traditional meals is a great way of ensuring that you're having a positive impact and those impacts are staying in the local community. Another way that we're making sure that we're keeping the benefits of travel and tourism in the local economy is through our CEOs. So our chief experience officers are, again, wherever possible, locally hired guides whose main purpose is just to make sure that the traveler is having a really extraordinary journey. These guys and girls are showing you their backyard, right? They're taking the travelers and showing them the places that they've lived and worked in for years. And so it's just another way where we're providing local opportunities for employment through growing our travel and tourism operations in the country, and providing, our travelers with direct contact with somebody who has, local knowledge of an area, and can get people into those maybe less visited places because of that local knowledge. A final way that we're ensuring that the benefits of staying in the countries that we're visiting is by developing opportunities directly in those areas. So building projects in partnership with organizations and people on the ground, again, so that the benefits of travel and tourism positively impact the people who are living in those places. The way that we do this is through Planetera. So Planetera was founded in 2003. It is the non-profit wing or organization that's part of G Adventures. And 100% of Planetera's operating costs are funded by G Adventures. So that, when you are donating to Planetera projects, you know that 100% of those donations are going to fund that actual project. G Adventures also supports and donates and helps to fund these projects as well. And, Planetera funds valuable projects with initiatives all over the world and empowers local people to develop their communities. It exists to identify needs and solutions for communities that are in need. We call it G for Good. So wherever, we're trying to build more of these into our itineraries as well. But the idea is that we're continually ensuring that the communities our travelers explore with us, they get something in return. So G for Good projects are community developed initiatives sponsored and supported by G Adventures and implemented by Planetera. So we're trying to grow these as well. Right now, we have our 50 in 5 program. So, raising $5 million to establish 50 new projects all over the world. The 50 in 5 years between 2015 and 2020 to build another 50 projects, so that by 2020, over 90% of our travelers have the opportunity to visit these Planetera projects. It's one of those reasons, how we explain why travelers who travel with G Adventures tend to want to travel with G Adventures again. It's because simply by having the time of your life, simply by going on a trip with G, you have the opportunity to see how you are having a positive impact on the places that you are visiting, because wherever, we try and get people to have the opportunity to visit these Planetera projects when they're in the areas where we operate them. So what are the results of this? What's the result of having a social enterprise as the mainstay of your travel company? And the answer is, well, we must be doing something right, because G Adventures is now the world's largest provider of small group travel. So we must be doing something right. So that wraps up this introduction to G Adventures in less than 15 minutes. I really want to thank you guys for taking the time to have a little bit of a better understanding and get some more knowledge on G Adventures and why we operate as a company. I often, when I'm doing this presentation and when I'm talking to you guys in the stores and to customers, I equate it to the NASA effect. If you talked to that old story of, if you were, talk to that person who's mopping the floors at NASA in the late 1960s, and you ask them, hey, what do you do for a living? And they'll say, well, I helped put a man on the moon. And the reason for that is because no matter who you were in NASA in the 60s, you had that overarching purpose, right? Everybody in the company was dedicated to putting those people on the moon. If you were the janitor mopping up at the end of the day, or if you're the CEO of the company. And there is a similar motivation and a similar drive at G Adventures, where no matter who you talk to, if you talk to the GPSs like me, if you talk to our CEOs on the ground in the countries that we operate, if you talk to our our ops team, our GCOs, or the people over at Basecamp, they all have the same purpose. If you were to say, what do you guys do for a living? They're going to start talking to you about Planetera. They're going to start talking to you about G for Good. When you ask somebody, what do you do for a living? And they say, well, what we do is we help to raise people out of poverty in the third world. We help to build stronger local economies in diverse areas of the world and help developing nations to develop. That's what gives us our get up and go. That's what gets most G Adventures employees out of bed in the morning, in the minus, whatever it happens to be, and into the office. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me kind of give you a bit of a better understanding of that. If you have any questions, you can always Facebook me, or you can reach out. My phone number and my email are all available on Facebook as well. And please do reach out if you have any questions. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope you explore the other videos that are on the on social media, and thank you very much.